Good evening. There's controversy tonight over Google's deal with the Treasury to pay £130 million in retrospective tax for the past decade. Labour call the sum derisory and they want it to be investigated by the public spending watchdog. But the Chancellor George Osborne said the deal was a vindication of government policy. Here's our business correspondent Jo Lynam.
OK, Google. How much tax does Google pay in Britain? Google's tax affairs are quite a popular search item in the UK, especially now that it's agreed to pay £130 million in back taxes to HMRC. But there are some who feel that's a fraction of what should have been paid.
Well, I've been campaigning on this issue for the last 15 years. Under the last government and this government, I've been pressing for action. So this is too little too late. At least we've got something. But to be frank, it looks as though what independent assessors have said, this is only paying about 3% of tax. Most corporations are paying 20%. Ordinary individuals are paying much more than that. So I think most people will just think it's unfair.
Google enjoyed sales of £4.6 billion in the UK in 2014. Under normal circumstances, companies would have paid 21% tax on their profits. But because Google routes its UK sales via Ireland and then onto the Caribbean, it pays much less each year than this £130 million tax deal, which covers a decade of accounts. So does Google now accept that it had been paying too little?
We were applying the rules as they were, and that was then, and now we're going to be applying the new rules, which means we will be paying more tax.
Britain accounts for 10% of Google's total sales, but only a sliver of its corporation tax bill. But is getting the company to pay more tax merely an effort to improve its image?
When I became Chancellor, there were some companies that paid little or no tax, and that rightly caused a lot of public anger. We said we'd take action. Now we have companies like Google paying tax. And I want the message to go out that in Britain taxes are low, but they have to be paid, and I expect more companies to follow suit.
And it's not just Google, of course. Apple, the world's largest company, Amazon, the biggest online retailer, Starbucks, the #1 coffee franchise, are all under the spotlight. Facebook paid only £4,000 in UK corporation taxes last year. It may take a while to close the book on creative tax arrangements. Jo Lynam, BBC News.
Let's talk to our economics editor, Kamal Ahmed, who's in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And Kamal, how fair is criticism of this deal?
Well, Rita, when it comes to tax issues, fairness is a pretty subjective concept. I think Google probably knew that it was going to get something of a backlash about this agreement. £130 million paid over 10 years isn't a huge amount of money for a company that makes billions of dollars of profit a year and frankly would pay that kind of money to most of its senior executives. But I think Google would point out when it comes down to fairness, there are a couple of arguments on its side. Firstly, it is an American company and tax law says that therefore it should pay most of its tax in America, just like a British company, if it were operating abroad, would actually still pay most of its tax in Britain. Secondly, the European single market allows it to have a headquarters wherever it wants to in the 27 member states. It chooses Dublin because it has low corporation tax. That, it says, is perfectly legal. And thirdly, it comes down to the issue of its competitors. Google isn't the only controversial company here. Jo Lynam pointed out Amazon and also Facebook. As Jo said, Facebook paid £4,000 in corporation tax in 2014. In that same year, Google paid over £20 million in corporation tax. It will say, where is the fairness that it is getting criticism when some of its competitors have maybe not yet made a deal with the tax authorities?
Kamal, many thanks. Kamal Ahmed there.